everybody. My name is Patricia, and over the last few years, I've broken 15 national records for Singapore in freediving for CMAS and AIDA competitions. Today, I would like to share something deeper than national records, how freediving can be safe, beautiful, and transformational, not only for athletes, but also for regular people, and maybe even for some of you in this hall. So let me start on how this journey looks like from the outside. 5 years ago, when I first started freediving in Singapore, I would carry my long freediving fins into my luggage bag and take the Grab taxi. Most of the time, the driver would notice the luggage bags and they would say something like, "Hey, wow, girl, you running away from home, ah?" Then, the next question would be, "Freediving? Is it the one you jump from very high?" Be like, "Okay, no, uncle, no, not that one, not that one." I dive down, I don't jump down. I hold my breath. Thank you to the cute uncles who drive me all over Singapore for my training. My personal best is 70 meters deep, but if you ask me to jump a 5-meter cliff into the water, no thank you. I'll stay on land or I'll dive that times 10. These days, people already know about freediving thanks to Netflix and social media, and that's good visibility. But that also created a problem. People think that freediving is dangerous, extreme, and risky. I'd like to give a fuller picture and how it helped calm my nervous system. But first, let's get everyone on the same page. What freediving actually is. Freediving is the practice of going underwater while holding your breath without scuba gear or any external air supply. And that could look like many things. That could look like this. We call this static, floating face down in stillness, or it could be swimming underwater across a pool. These are our dynamic disciplines. Or it could be diving down a line in the ocean. These are our depth disciplines. And we train all this so that we can have more fun in the sea, more fun in the kelp forest, my friend there, more fun in Komodo, more fun in the Philippines, diving in wrecks, gliding with marine life, exploring reefs or other kind of man-made objects. And in some communities, spearfishing as a way of life and sustenance, like the Ama divers in Japan. Now, movie studios are also often using freediving for underwater scenes. Shout out to PFI, my agency, for their contributions in Avatar and Wakanda Forever. Recent examples of how freediving can be used in the movie industry. So you can see freediving is not like one narrow activity. It's actually a spectrum. And you can see that there is some challenge, but there is also calm, play, and connection. So the big question most people ask is, how is this even possible? Humans have an inbuilt survival response called the mammalian dive reflex. And that's when we hold our breath and immerse our face in water. Several things happen automatically. Our heart rate slows down. Our blood flow prioritizes to the brain and our heart, our vital organs, and the body becomes more efficient with oxygen. So your body is not your enemy in freediving. It is actually trying to help you. This reflex also helps shift you towards the parasympathetic mode. This is your rest and digest state. We experience this when we feel safe at home on the sofa, and that regulation is transferable. What we train in water can help calm the nervous system on land too. In fact, it is so powerful that doctors and nurses are using facial baths to calm patients who are anxious or dysregulated in hospital settings. And this submersion directly activates the trigeminal nerves around the eyes and the lips, which increases vagal tone. It forces the body to calm down. Another important point, when you feel that urgent need to breathe, the feeling is usually driven by rising carbon dioxide, not low oxygen. And that's important because many beginners feel the urge to breathe and like, oh no, xiao liao, I'm in danger. No, when what actually needs to happen is my body is sending a really strong signal and I need to respond calmly and correctly. So freediving teaches us to stay calm under that signal, move efficiently through the water, reduce unnecessary tension, all this while keeping safety protocols at the center. So yes, physical attributes like lung size or strength might matter to some degree, but mindset, regulation, technique, consistency, these are what would carry you in training. And this is where freediving stopped being just a sport for me, and it became a mirror. My first freediving experience 5 years or 6 years ago was not just my first breath hold. It was my first real meeting with my nervous system in a way that is very hard to access on land. In water, your patterns become really obvious very, very quickly. If you overthink, you feel it. If you feel panic after one mistake, you feel it. And if you judge yourself harshly, you feel it. Freediving became this stigma-free lab where I could observe myself with full honesty. Let me show you what it looked like in my journey. My number one pattern was overthinking. I overthought things that I had already done during my dive. I overthought things that had not even happened yet. And in the water, this is very expensive. Dynamic freediving, we aim for a streamlined body position, but as a beginner, I was looking ahead at the future that hadn't happened yet, or I was looking at my technique. Are my kicks big enough? How was the technique? Am I gliding enough? Thinking about things that have already happened. Both of this created resistance physically and mentally. So eventually, I learned to trust what is right in front of me. I see the tiles, yes, but I keep my head neutral, my mind neutral, and focused on the floor, the rhythm, the next movement, staying present. And that lesson moved into life too. Not living in a replay of the past, not worrying about the future, but returning to what is real right here, right now. More recently, I learned that a lot of anxiety is actually prediction error. What my brain predicts danger in what comes next, even when I'm still okay now. And the more often that happens, the stronger the negative sensations become. But when I start to feel safe in the present, my mind can predict better and everything else feels less intense. Then came the second lesson, what to do after mistakes. In pool freediving, a very bad turn can happen very easily. And in my early days, one messy turn meant I would just totally give up my dive. My body could continue, but my mind would not. I had already quit in my head. One session with my coach, Sing Xiang, he's the men's pool champion in Singapore. He said something that really stayed with me. Every time I turned at 50 meters, when I felt that the turn was not perfect, I surfaced. He said one thing, which is that one imperfect turn doesn't mean that the whole dive is gone. He asked me, why you come up? He's a man of little words. Later on, I stopped quitting for these kinds of excuses, but it took longer to lose the frustration and resulting tension. I felt following all slips in technique. Everything could cost the performance. But the breakthrough was this. A mistake is just an event. It is not an identity. Bad turn, recover posture, reset attention, and continue with composure. Again, this was bigger than sport. It taught me that one imperfect moment does not mean that I have to hide or I have to give up or collapse or spiral. The third lesson was the hardest one, discomfort. And this is something that I'm still working on till this day. In freediving, we have sometimes contractions as we go down, and we definitely feel the urge to breathe. Sometimes anxiety might kick in. I'd lose my relaxation. My form would get stiffer. All this would burn oxygen faster. And sometimes I would end the dive early. Yeah, my internal voice would say, damn, you suck, Pat. What is wrong with you? Does that sound familiar? That self-judgment created more stress, and more stress created worse dives. So I had to learn a different skill. I had to observe myself without all that drama. I began asking myself questions to reframe my perspective during my dive. What am I feeling here right now? Where is the tension? What changes if I soften my shoulders? What changes if I lengthen my glide? I shifted that judgment I had for myself into curiosity. And that shift in perspective was huge for me. I didn't have the words then, but now I know I was building interoceptive awareness, noticing what I was feeling and then softening my response instead of fighting it. Today, teaching this to others is something that is very important for me. At its core, this is about learning yourself on a deeper level, and it didn't happen overnight for me. I practice it repeatedly, and I still practice it repeatedly until I can reproduce this in water. And I want to reproduce this on land. I think I have in some way. So now let me take you through the competition years, because this is where all these lessons became really real to me. I started freediving in August 2020, just right after the COVID lockdown. There was nobody in Lazarus. Now it's packed. Anyways, my first competition was in March 2021 at Changi Beach Club. That was just 6 months after my first course. And by the end of the year, 2022, I competed for my first competition overseas, and I got my first national record. At the end of the year, I was the first Southeast Asian woman to achieve 200 meters in the pool. Thank you. From the outside, this all looks like confidence, momentum, but inside, honestly, it was confusing. My personal best, well, they only happened in competitions. They never happened in the training. And the numbers were very far apart. Not very, they were kind of far. They were not really near each other. Even though during competition I performed well, a huge part of me was asking if it was luck, if it was just a fluke. That imposter syndrome was so real. It affected me. I was wondering if it was just the adrenaline during competition that helped me achieve these numbers, or maybe my nervous system was not yet ready at that time during training, but the gap still exists. I still wrestle with this. And because of this, my success turned into pressure. So the year after that, after my first 200-meter dive, it was the year of the World Championships. It was in Asia. So I had to go, right? I had to do this 200-meter dive at the World Championships. Yeah. The continental record was 217 meters. So another 20 meters, right? That's okay, right? I can do it, right? Yeah. No. The more tightly I held on to that target, the more I crumbled. And that 6 months leading up to the World Championships, I trained harder, but mentally I got heavier. And this feeling of negativity to the sport that I loved grew bigger. I only have one picture from that year. It was kind of dark. Well, in the month leading up to the World Championship, my friend Tom invited me to, just for fun, do some static training. This is the one where you're just holding your breath in the water. I didn't even like static. It's like, okay, fine. He needed a buddy and I needed a distraction. So I trained with him, and no idea how, but during the World Championships, I got a new national record of 6 minutes and 12 seconds. My first 6 minutes at the World Championship. I don't know. It was a discipline that I didn't plan to chase, and I wasn't even putting so much pressure on that result, but static was easy during that time. But that taught me a very key principle, that when I'm stuck, or when you're stuck, sometimes progress comes from just changing the angle and not forcing things harder. But still, during the year, I held on a little bit too tightly to this goal of another 200 meters. And yeah, I paid for it. I entered into another competition later in that year, and it failed. That target, the hardest part was not the failed attempt. The hardest part was like letting go of the identity that was attached to it. That I'm this person, I'm this national record holder, and I've got to do this 200 meters. I decided to finally let it go. And when I did, everything was better. My performance finally opened. I switched to doing depth. I went to the Philippines for like a month in January. That training demanded a lot, and it paid off. I came back with all the national records for depth under CMAS. And then I came back to Singapore. I trained for fun with that same friend. And again, another national record. And then 52-meter no fins dive, 152 meters swimming underwater breaststroke. Okay, so still the same imposter syndrome. Still, like, I don't know how this happened, but yes, it did. The next day, I did a bi-fins dive of 200 meters again. The results looked amazing, and honestly, I should have stopped. I should have rested. No, I was still on this journey of learning, and I did not know when to stop. Mentally, I was carrying this fatigue, but I pushed on. I already planned another depth competition. I went for it, and I got a couple more records from that. But that year, a typhoon was hit in that place that I was in, and that was not nice. No electricity, roads were blocked, and there was some basic supply stress. But okay, I came home with strong results, and that included national records. So overall for the year, That put me third place in the world across all pool and depth disciplines, which was really nice. Thank you. Thank you. So that hidden cost showed up the next year. The next year, which was another world championship year. I couldn't bring myself to the pool. I couldn't train at the same level. My body, my mind, I was so tired. I went to the pool. I just moved around, slept around. I was not close to my competition PBs, and I knew that this was going to be a problem. 6 months and I'm just playing. So I had to choose a different approach. I couldn't force the physical training. So I trusted my base level of training, and instead I focused on my internal state. And that meant more meditation, more visualization, and creating a better emotional environment around me. That was choosing myself, choosing to rest, and being with my family, my friends, and having a perspective of appreciation rather than pressure. I went to the World Champs planning to enjoy the atmosphere, to learn, to fangirl at the elite athletes, and 2 national records at the end of it. One of which was a 200-meter monofin dive, which kind of went full circle, right? That was the initial 200-meter monofin success that I had that brought me into this spiral, into this turmoil. And now I had achieved it and a little bit more again in the World Championship. So that was a bit of a really nice moment for me. But I also started tracking my patterns, such as menstrual cycle and my recovery quality, a bit more honestly with myself. And that really helped with my training a lot. And this year, this lesson became even more clearer. This year, I had the mental capacity to train, to go back to my regular training. And just last month, I set a new national record in Malaysia with a 7-minute static record. This is my first 7 minutes, and one of 21 ladies in the world who have done 7 minutes in competitions. It was really nice. Last week, I was in Jakarta for another pool competition, and it was a little bit of a different kind of success. So it was different because the dives were not my longest distance. It was not a national record, and it was not my biggest headline. My body was tired, my dives were uncomfortable, and the lactic came so early. So in this one, I really felt it in my muscles in each and every dive. In the past, something like this would make me stop. I'm not a marathon runner. I cannot push past my lactic normally, but in this competition, I had some kind of motivation, and I did. I stayed present and I continued with control. I was thinking one more kick, one more glide, one more pull, focusing on the present, one stroke at a time. And for me, this was one of my best improved dives. I feel as proud of this dive as my other 200 meters. And that brings me to the most important message that I want to share with you. Freediving is not just about holding your breath. It is about how you respond when things get uncomfortable. Your nervous system, especially underwater, where everything else is stripped away, it doesn't lie. It shows you your default patterns under pressure. And then with training in a safe space, you learn to work with these patterns, physically safe, emotionally supported by a coach or good buddies, building skills and facing challenges and shifting negative patterns. And most importantly, developing compassion for yourself. So whether or not you're chasing records or not, freediving can give you something valuable. And it is calm that you can access whenever you need it. So if you're curious, start small, start simple, and start safe. Learn with a good instructor and step-by-step progression that addresses the mental and emotional and also as well the physical side of things. And if you want to say hi, come say hi to me at the TDI SDI booth on that side. I'd love to be part of your freediving journey. Thanks so much for being here and listening. And I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the water somewhere. Thank you. Thank you, Patricia. Very impressive.